Good afternoon, YouTube. Today I want to talk a little bit about this interview with Ezra Levant and Danielle Smith, talking about Mark Carney and the U.S. tariff war with Canada. So let's begin.
Premier Danielle Smith. Premier, thanks so much for joining us again. Can you give us a quick update? How are your communications going with the U.S. government?
I would say that what I've observed is that there are a lot of people around the U.S. president who are very reasonable, very accessible, and don't want tariffs. They actually are kind of on our side in understanding the important relationship that Canada and the U.S. enjoy. And I think we've had some early successes. I was just at the Houston CERAWeek conference this week, and Chris Wright, the energy secretary, said that it was his view that there shouldn't be tariffs on Alberta oil and gas at all. We also saw that when they did bring through the threat of initial tariffs, there was a reduced rate for energy resources, and that includes critical minerals as well as electricity. I just think we have to make that same argument across the full range of raw materials and intermediate goods so that we can have as much of a tariff-free relationship as possible. I think there's probably still going to be some tariffs that are coming for a variety of reasons, but I think that we can enjoy some special status with the U.S. as we have for many decades.
The New York Times had a very interesting story about how Claudia Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, managed to control the emotional energy and actually persuaded Trump that she was doing all she could. And what's interesting, if the New York Times story is accurate, is that Trump thanked her and then pivoted to just bashing Trudeau. And I think a lot of it was a personal feud. Now that Trudeau's gone, do you think we have a chance to restart things? I'm a little worried that Mark Carney, at least in his, the last few weeks before he was sworn in, his main target seemed to be Trump. Do you think that Mark Carney's going to have the moral hazard of wanting to pick fights with Trump so he can play Captain Canada to defend us? Claudia Sheinbaum sort of swallowed her pride in a way, but got the deal done for the sake of Mexico. I'm worried that Mark Carney might want to play Trudeau's game. What do you think? Have you talked to Mark Carney at all?
I have not talked to him. We do have a First Ministers conference scheduled for this week, so that'll be the first time that the premiers are able to get together. And I hope that's not the case. There's a lot of people who are really hurt by a tariff war, whether it's our Canadian producers who face tariffs selling their goods into the U.S., or whether it's our Canadian consumers who are trying to buy American goods. Tariff wars do not benefit anyone. I think we have to acknowledge that first meeting that the Prime Minister went to in Mar-a-Lago was set us on a bad path. I think he made two key mistakes that the president has talked about over and over again. One, by saying that we would not meet our NATO commitment until 2032. That's not going to be good enough. I think we should all recognize that. And secondly, implying that somehow Canada would collapse if we had 25% tariffs on it. That really displayed a lot of weakness. I don't feel that sense of weakness in Canada right now. I feel like, in fact, everybody is doing everything they can to show, no, we are a strong, united country. We will find new markets. We will support each other. And so I think the message that the Prime Minister conveyed was the wrong one. And I hope that the new Prime Minister doesn't make the same mistakes. Make no mistake, Mark Carney has been in the background for the last 10 years advising this government on net zero power regs and net zero emissions targets, whether it's for autos, for houses, for emissions caps, methane caps. And so I haven't really seen much to give the indication that he's going to repeal all the terrible laws that targeted Alberta over the last 10 years. He's gotten rid of the one that is the most visible, which is the consumer carbon tax that you see when you fill up your tank and you open up your home heating bill. But it still sounds like that he's intending to not only keep the ones on industry, but make them even higher. And I can tell you that that's just not going to be on. We've had that kind of victimization in Alberta of our industry for the last 10 years, and I don't think Albertans will put up with it anymore. So I haven't seen any clear indication that those terrible policies are going to be repealed. But that's why we need to get into an election, because I'd like to know exactly where the new Prime Minister stands and see where he stands relative to the opposition leader, Pierre Poilievre, and then we can make our choice and at least go forward into negotiations with the U.S. with someone who has a clear 4-year mandate.
One of the things that
I just wanted to comment about that as well, because I'm feeling very strongly that Poilievre is not doing enough right now, or rather his party. Who among you listening is actually aware of any conservative MPs besides Poilievre who dazzles you, who inspires you, who you can say is making a definite appeal for your vote. When I look at Poilievre, he seems to run very tightly by himself. And I see very few ministers actually going up in front of the camera and actually speaking on behalf of the Conservative Party in a way that I find attractive as a voter. And one thing I will say is that I think either I may blame the media a little bit for Poilievre not coming out sooner in tactics against how to deal with Trump. But the word is that he reacted poorly and too late in regards to the tariff, his response to the tariff, and how he constructed a solution for the problem with the Canadians and the Americans. Smith, for me, she seemed to be in the beginning the only one really trying to work with Trump. And now that she's gone and said, okay, we're going to stop buying American liquor and so on, and we're going to look for Canadian alternatives for this, for that, shows me that her negotiations with the Trump government failed, and that the tariff is still going despite efforts to say, let's appease the Americans. That's troubling for me. For those of you listening, I used to support Trump very much, but I'm realizing that Trump may be behaving in a manner that's very greedy, that may be wrong, forgetting your allies, forgetting who your people are, who look up to the U.S., who depend on the U.S. Trump seemed to make everything about money making. You make deals with people who pay $5 million to go into the U.S., okay? You cut off any excess spending for anything, even if it's like charitable, useful charity. And I'm saying that Doge is doing a good job of trying to get out the corruption, but I mean, throwing the baby out with the bathwater is a mistake. You have to be careful when dealing with your allies and friends. You cannot just berate us and pretend like we're nobodies, like we're children, and just go and try to divide the world power up with Putin. It's not going to work like that. He acted like Europe is a bunch of children, like Canada is a bunch of children. I attribute some of that to the bad leadership of those countries, and of course our country, Trudeau behaving like a small boy. It was wrong, but let us hope that if Poilievre should come to power, that he will be able to have a different relationship with Trump, at least one of respect. And when that's established, then we can start to turn down the intensity of this so-called tariff trade war. And I agree with Smith. I mean, the Americans have us fairly good. Like, we're a very loyal consumer of theirs. We send our oil down there for the refining, as she said, and we buy it back. I mean, America does take advantage of Canada. And the more that I look at it, even water, for example, we send to the Americans. We send all kind of thing. It's a very mutually beneficial relationship that Trudeau, I blame Trudeau most of all, for screwing up. But again, Trump seemed to have a decent relationship with Smith from what I saw, and he still tariffed us. So that can be attributed to Trudeau not following demands of Trump, but I think if Trump was a little bit fair negotiating and not so hard-lining, that Alberta could have got a bit more of a break, because we're naturally allies. We're naturally friends. We want to get along with the Americans, and we want to have a nice open border and free trade going back and forth. We want that, and we can't have that if Trump keeps on acting very aggressively. I'm not sure. I hope that they have a different relationship in the future. That's my hope. because the tariff is really it's much worse than what people thought it was going to be, and jobs. I don't know how effective it is in moving jobs to the United States. Trump seems to be very happy with the results. So, but Canada, Canada has to go abroad to compete now. And we have no choice. And we don't have the right leadership as I see it. Carney basically subverted the rule of law that we have to have an election. He should be calling one immediately. And I know they won't. They'll probably delay as long as possible, probably till October. But I'd be surprised if Mark Carney calls an election anytime soon. He wants to stay in power, so the Liberals are very clever to hang on to power. But let's listen a little bit more here.
Premier Smith, if an America First advisor is watching this video, could you, with the Alberta industry, ramp up your oil production and send maybe even double as much oil to the United States? Could you and Alberta displace OPEC conflict oil for American imports?
Well, I can tell you that we certainly could double our production of oil and gas, especially if we're building pipelines east, west, north, and south. I already have seen a number of proposals that have come forward going south that could see us sell an extra 2 million barrels per day by 2030 and more beyond that if the Americans are interested. So keep in mind that would be a 50% increase in what we're already selling to the Americans. And it would make good sense for them because when we sell oil to the U.S., we do it at a discounted value just because we have a heavier product and so it requires more upgrading. And as a result, we do sell it at a discount, keeps prices for American consumers low. And it goes to one of the biggest refining capacity for heavy oil in the United States, which is Texas. And so the Americans don't have a lot of other options when it comes to this heavy grade of oil. They can look at Venezuela, they can look at Iran, and I've always argued that we're a much better trading partner than that. But you're also seeing a couple of other factors. One is that you're seeing some of their traditional, conventional resources that they're falling off in production. That's what happens with shale. It comes on in a flood, and then the reservoir gets exhausted. That's not the case with Canadian oil. We mine it, and so we know where it is. It's just a matter of having to take the sand out of it so that we can turn it into a useful product. So we have the advantage as they potentially have declining resources to be able to backfill. But even if they don't, we can be a joint powerhouse because the world needs both. They need WTI and they also need heavy oil, and we can be in partnership to make sure that that gets to trading partners around the world. But at least by building pipelines to the U.S., they would have the first offer to buy it if it is the case that they do need it. If they don't, then we can have it go to the Gulf Coast and export to India, export to our friends in Europe. There's a lot of opportunities for us to work together on that. And I hope we can get past the tariffs so that we can begin to have that conversation because there's a huge amount of opportunity and I sure don't want to waste time.
And also, Trump's rhetoric to me seems to be that they want to cut us out of the industry. Like the Americans want to compete with us, with Canada. And they basically say, well, Trump says, we don't need Canadian oil, but as Smith said, we can have that kind of co-partnership. We can work together. Smith, for me, seemed to be on the right side of things. Trump shows hubris, even foolishness, to deny a good trading partner like Alberta and Canada by as a whole to receive oil that would benefit the both of us. Like, I don't know, I don't understand why he doesn't want to have a good trading relationship. It's so baffling to me. It seems as though Trump has some kind of an oil deposit that we don't know of somewhere. They can cut Alberta right out. It doesn't seem to be the case. So, I see this same attitude with Trump's tactics in Europe, where he tried to come in to be the boss of everybody. That's wrong. That's not the right tactic to use. Even if the Americans hold the economic edge, You still have to be, you can consider them to be like admirers or friends of America. You don't have to destroy the relationship with tariffs completely. And even so, I don't think Trump can enforce it forever, because you're not going to have allies left. You might make the United States a pariah among nations. Like, who wants to be, close to the Americans in a sense? You're driving your friends away, and you're making more enemies of everyone. And I don't know. I think Trump behaves unwisely in this moment. Very unwise. It is. I feel very bad about it. And thinking about it, it's the Americans, it seems, want to work with us, but Trump has just closed off the relationship for the time being. He may be waiting for proper leadership to come to Canada, but he may be waiting for us to do something about the border, about fentanyl. But I think it's cruelty. Maybe it's hubris on the part of Trump for what he's doing to Canada, but mostly to Alberta. I mean, the tariff should have been off for Alberta. The way that Smith negotiate, I can't understand for the life of me, after showing goodwill and the ability, the willingness to show Trump that Alberta will be on your side, and that our oil can flow together, we can profit together nicely. Why Trump would be against that? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe somebody here listening to this YouTube channel will be able to understand and explain to me why it is. I don't know. I look forward to hearing your comments, seeing your comments below, and please like and subscribe to help my channel grow. And I wish you well. Take care.